Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We're always encouraging folks to, if you're out in the car and you find us or you've listened for years, set a spot on your dial for us. So easy to do on the AM side. We're always a click away when the guys on the FM are boring you or in bad commercials or the HVAC guys talking to you. The Gold Rush Sevens doublers I will have the Raven scratch offs, and we're in Oyster Land. We're in Crab Cake Tour Land. We're going to be at Cooper's doing both in Fells Point on Friday. Last time we were at Cooper's, this guy joined me. He is the newest sponsor of the oldest service we have, which is the WNST Tech Service. It is coming back to life. If you want to join it, I can say this out loud. Bill, you need some directions. Here you go. You text 410-821-9678. That's 410-821-WNST, which is our old house phone number. You text that number and you just text join or WNST, and you're back on the tech service, and we're about to kick this thing back into gear. So, Bill, you've inspired me. We have not sent the tech service out. I have figured out how to put the streams back together. We can get people to sign up again, and we are going to have the new and improved and more robust WNST tech service. What do you make of that, Bill Cole?
I think that I will be a more informed Baltimore sports fan thanks to the tech service.
So a 1057.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd always they were always things that made me, you don't ever want to be the guy who just has no idea what's going on. And sometimes I find myself being the guy that has no idea what's going on
Did you
because,
hear blank? Did you
right.
hear right? Okay,
I
right.
mean, when they're talking about names of people that I've never even heard of, that's when I really feel out of touch. And I find myself in that place more often these days than maybe I used to.
I had an embarrassing sports moment on Saturday, and I admitted this to Leonard Raskin earlier this week. I didn't know the Terps were playing. B, I didn't know they were playing at home. C, I didn't know they were playing Michigan State because I would have texted my three friends who are Michigan State Spartans fans and given them a hard time. And then the fans walked out. They blew the game. Nobody's there. Everybody leaves. And I think to myself, like, you're a big sports guy. I'm a big sports guy. Where I talk about oysters being down the menu on things I order, which is one of the reasons I'm doing them now, is like I just never get around to ordering the oysters. I almost had a friggin' deviled egg the other day. I got to tell you about that. So
eh,
remind me about that. But the Maryland Terps on the sports menu of am I going to go see Pearl Jam? Bruce Springsteen, Styx, Lake Street Dive, the Ravens this weekend. Am I saving up for Oriole playoff tickets? The Caps start in 3 weeks. Whatever you spend money on, Merriweather, this, that, concerts, ball games, kids, college, whatever, travel, wherever you're doing, going to the beach. Where are the Maryland like things
eh,
that miss me
yeah,
and things that are just
right,
gone that like
right,
they don't exist anymore? Maryland
right.
football's right up there in this community for people I know. It doesn't show up
I
on my
think
timeline.
it's interesting because like I think their football footprint as part of the Big Ten is probably broader than it used to be in the ACC. Uh, I accidentally stumbled onto the game, happened to be sitting in front of the television for a few minutes, got roped in. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a shot.
Did you know
Got a
the game
look.
was happening, or did you just come across? Did you
Uh,
know they were playing Michigan State? Did you know
no,
what's? I still don't know
I
what time the
knew,
game was
I
played. I just
knew
know
it
the end
was
of it. I
right.
saw it on
I
Twitter.
knew it was a Saturday, and I thought, oh, I wonder when Maryland plays. So I went looking for it. But my relationship with Maryland football doesn't ever seem to change, which really means I will not go seek it out. Like I every time I turn it on, I'm generally disappointed and annoyed, and like that just seems to be the case. And I was got excited because I'm watching, and it's like, okay, look at this. Like I don't even care that the guys are trying to tell me that Michigan State's the underdog and that Maryland. I mean, it's like in my world we're Maryland will always be an underdog to Michigan State in football. Give me a break. And basketball, quite frankly. But, you know, so the fact that they were winning and it looked kind of fun and I'm starting to learn some names and it's like and then it just the inevitable happens and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And Mike Loxley, I don't know. You immediately
I
start
like
doing
Mike. I mean, I've
armchair.
known
I
Mike
do
forever.
too.
I like
I
Mike.
can't understand. I think
But
they
I
should
don't
win.
like Mike enough to get in my car and go down there and spend 5 hours and chase my press pass over at the hotel where they want to leave it and park me in Greenbelt and like and then not come on the show and like it just I got fed up with the Terps years ago. You know when I got fed up? When Luke got fed up. And Luke has a much, much higher tolerance
Right.
for what he's enduring today and every day in regard to dealing with these people. And part of my Declaration of Independence, and I know you read my letter to Eric Costa. I had a friend of mine ask me, "Are you losing your mind?" And I'm like, "No, I'm speaking my mind." And like,
No, we lost
and
that
in
years
case
ago.
I die tomorrow, I
Right.
need Chad Steele and the Whistler and you and everyone I know to know exactly what's happened. That thing with Eric DaCosta, I wrote that because people need to understand where I'm coming from and what I have dealt with. And with the Maryland Terps, I have not been bitchy or moany because I'm a whiner. That's all I do is sit here and whine while I talk to all sorts of people about how to fix the place. But I'm a whiner about media credentials when they just they make you say, why am I doing this? Why how am I in this relationship where I'm in front of this human who's treating me like stool and still getting in my car and going down there like Gary Williams was ever nice to me, or like, it's like it's been 50 years at this point with the Terps, and it's still 45 miles away, and they don't embrace this city. They really don't. I saw Loxley on the pregame show. I mean, I'm the one guy watching the Ravens pregame a month ago, where he's there, and it was the strangest thing because he's standing in front of these kids, and they got all their Terps Under Armour $200 shirts on and like all that stuff, and he's like, "We're paying a straight cash money these days," and I'm like, that's just weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's like, we're paying him
definitely.
straight crash money. And I'm like, man, we've
Yeah.
moved on what the industry is, what the business is, what the expectation is. But the one thing, and it was never a price point. Going to Maryland games was always like affordable, whatever. It's just whether you wanted to go.
Right.
And the boys and girls that sleep down there on campus didn't want to get out of bed and walk 4 blocks to go to the games most of the time. I don't know what to say about them other than I used the Cat Williams thing, and I should have used this on Eric DaCosta. I'll use it on the rest of them. Like you've gotten what you've earned. Like, there's a whole Redskin fan base down there, Commanders, there's a whole Raven thing up here. You play on Saturdays. This is a lifetime thing of you not doing a good enough job of us getting interested in it. That's really what the story is with the Terps.
Yeah. I still don't fully connect the dots when I'm watching of the NIL money and the transfer portal and it's somewhere along the way during the game an announcer will say, "Well, remember da 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 da," and they have 7 new players on their offensive side of the ball who all
From the
transferred in.
portal,
Right, yeah. So that's when I get like that perspective reset because I really just look at it the way we always looked at it. I don't know. Terps football, I can remember going as a kid once or twice, but certainly not a lot. Basketball, I would love to go to, but man, like an 8:30 tip on a Tuesday, like that just does not work in my universe to go
well,
all the way
especially
down
when you
there and
live
come back.
north
I mean, it's
of White
just,
Marsh, right? You know what
yeah,
I'm
it's
saying? Like,
tough. It's
it's hard.
tough.
I lived
Yeah,
downtown for 20 years, and it wasn't College Park wasn't far to me, living
right,
downtown. In Towson, feels a little further. I went to
right,
Annapolis the other night, feels a little further. That said, Bel Air feels a little closer. You know what I mean?
right,
So it,
sure.
it depends on where your geography is, but they've always had a problem. And I talked about this, and I know you knew Steve Hennessy real well. Steve was my partner, really helped me build this place 30 years ago. And he had the baseline seats in the old Cole Fieldhouse. He was the paint the face red guy in there and screaming at the Duke guys and you suck, and like all of that. And then they're like, oh, for that privilege, it's $14,000 a year to your whatever. It was outrageous. It was way beyond whatever I paid. I paid $500 for my PSL back in the day. So I can bitch
Right,
about it and call it a poor sucker's license, but they weren't trying to angle me for 10 grand a year like
right.
a bad timeshare. You know what I mean? And once they went to the new play, I said to my wife when all the hubbub happened Saturday after the game, because my wife and I were in Frederick, and then we literally we called an audible and saw Springsteen Saturday night because we weren't going to see him this week. So we went down to DC, and then she's driving, I'm in the car, and I'm watching all the Terp stuff. I'm like, we're driving right through College Park when the game was in the balance and like whatever. And I said to her, nobody goes because like they don't even know it's happening. I didn't even know it was happening. And I'm a sports guy, and they think so little of me, they don't even tell me or offer me a chance to come down and talk about it. And or hey, do you want the coach on this week, or do you want our well-paid quarterback who's making 50 grand a year this year from Lito's Pizza? I don't know, but they've done a
It,
poor job. They really have done a poor job to people who love
oh,
football. This region loves football.
maybe Ness. I don't know if they've done a poor job, right? Like what was their objective and what are they trying to do? I mean, they certainly have they walked into the Big Ten as the doormat and I don't think they're that anymore. I don't know that they're necessarily challenging for like winning the Big Ten anytime soon, but I just don't I'm not really sure what the objective is, right? Like you
Change
want to
your
be
uniform every week and look really good because we have a great state flag,
you want to
right?
be right. You want to be one of the colleges that is like the big time football. That's like a category, right? Like, do you want to go when you're 17 and you're evaluating colleges? That is a category. Big time sports, and they have that. They never really needed it, I don't think, because of the geographical location being a state school. uh, they've done a great job on the engineering and tech side, and they produce smart people, and those smart people go on and do really great stuff. And they're a
Oh, as an
DC
educational
suburb.
institution,
Yeah,
has
I
nothing to do
mean,
with that.
well, sure. I think it does, right? Because it all weaves together to this growing cost of going to school, the student debt crisis, like
How many
college as
people
an
do we know? I got three friends
experience.
that sent their kids to Alabama. I got five friends that have sent their kids to South Carolina. And these are all 18, 22-year-old people, all young people. The thought of going to Maryland, I don't know anybody that sends their kids to Maryland. You know what I mean? And it's
Oh,
weird because we all like wear the flag and all that, but they're not the ones showing up as, I mean, Leonard Raskin and I got into it this week. He sent his kid to Ohio State, his whole closet's Ohio State. I'm like, you had a closet full of Maryland. How many games you go to in your life? Like you, handful. I saw Major Harris play back in '88, and you know what I mean. Like I went down
right,
there once for a Penn State game, we got our ass kicked or whatever. But like,
right.
it's not a thing, and it's a thing for all of us to have experienced all these Ravens games, flying to London, flying to here, going there, whatever. Like we like football, and we love Maryland, and we love the flag. Like, I it feels like if I'm a marketing guy from New York and I come down and say my Big Ten footprint of two major metropolitan, yeah. And
I
what did
think
that
it's
get
the
you on Saturday?
same. I think it's the same conversation that we had a couple weeks ago or whenever it was. I think that really the non-student associated fan is completely irrelevant to the equation. They have absolutely no bearing on success or failure of the program, right? Like the TV deal is phenomenal. We've got our own network, right? Like the student body, that's the recruiting piece, right? You got to fill the roles of students. And I think they consistently get kids local. I hear you on the whole Alabama, Auburn, South Carolina, like they have done well pulling us mid-Atlanticers down into the South because we want it to be a little bit, our kids want it to be a little bit warmer all the time. So they've done a good job, but there are always kids. Well, when my son was coming out of Calvert Hall, there's a bunch of kids that went to Maryland. I mean, I think they do still do really well here. Um, but I don't think selling tickets to games, I don't think they care too. I mean, sponsors,
I think they need
students,
the revenue, dude. And certainly
television.
part of this, they need. Look, I had a friend that sold for Maryland recently that doesn't anymore. Part of it is the optics of nobody being there. And if nobody's there, all that sponsor money, they come back and say, "Wait, I know this from a real life perspective. You don't have an audience, you don't have much." So, the empty part of it, and dude, Google the Valentine's night game against Was it Indiana or was it Illinois? It was Illinois. Like 1,000 people at a basketball game in the
Right.
middle of Big Ten, and like it didn't quite look like the White Sox 2 weeks ago, but it looked like nobody. Um, and then the football thing this weekend, and the coach is pissed, and everybody's like, I just think we're talking about it because we never talk about Maryland football, but this isn't a bad week to talk about why people don't go because we're the exact people that they'd like to recruit. We like football, we like
Yeah.
Maryland, we like the flag, we like big time sports. We like the crowd. We like all of that. Why don't we do it? Why don't it's not expensive? Which is a barrier for a lot of things.
Feels feels a little bit like when baseball was going through like the steroid stuff. Like you knew that that was a transition period, right? You knew there was stuff going on. There was lots of stories. You saw Barry Bonds' head get 3 times as big as it was before. Like you knew there was stuff going on, and you knew that eventually they were going to sort of they were going to get to what they decided was the bottom of it. And then there was going to be this new thing afterwards. I feel like that's kind of where we are with college athletics because of the NIL money and the transfer portal and trying to deal with COVID. I mean, the idea that some kids have been playing for like 6 or 7 years with like red shirts and COVID years and all that crazy stuff. I mean, all three of those sort of things all happened in the same period of time. That has to generally create chaos. And it's going to take some time for that stuff to sort out. Right now, I don't think there is any hours, significant hours being put into trying to get you and I to go to those football games or those basketball games. To your
Well,
point,
the other
I
part
don't
is
even know
is
when it is.
recognition of the players and saying, do I even know who's on the roster when the portal
Right,
is pulling
right.
people? So th- that part of, oh, we got a freshman, he's going to be here 4 years, and they had that with Tonga Valoa's brother. I mean, so they had a little thing they could wrap themselves around in College Park. But I'm just talking about in a general sense. If you love Alabama, oh State U, we go down there in our pickups. We're gonna tailgate, and if that's who you are, and those programs are built. But to your point, Maryland's trying to become a part of that. We're in the club of big time sports where it's a very exclusive club to have that kind of money. To have Nebraska money and have Penn State money and have Ohio State money and have Michigan money, and then the filthiness of it. I mean, you see Jim Harbaugh winning this week while he's torched the program in Michigan. That's all happening. That's all baked into the dirtiness of 50 years of college sports is baked into how I feel about it as it being portrayed as an educational institution where you start talking about, well, we have all these degrees and so yeah, but that's not about the student athletes. That's the part where you're going to get a job. That's different than playing on the sports team and getting NIL money.
Well,
And
that's
your
right.
daughter maybe getting a free ride for field hockey or something like that. That's different than the area we're going into now. You as a father of young ladies, Title IX, all of that. I would hear all of that along the lines of equity and education and all that. But whatever was going on with Alabama football and whatever's been going on with UCLA basketball and forever has had nothing to do with education. As long as I've been in radio, it's never had anything to do with education.
I agree with you, and I guess my sort of perspective at this point is, yeah, there was. I don't know. I hate to say 50 years because that makes me feel like really old, but like it's been growing, right? The rule breaking and skirting the limits and all that has continuously grown to the point where the dam broke. We created a transfer portal, we created NIL money, and now it is completely different. Like we were joking the other day about soccer's relegated concept, and with the old fun conversation of, well, the Washington Commanders would have been dropped down, and Alabama would be in the NFL, and these teams would go up and down, and how interesting and crazy would that be if that's really what it was? Because there are a number of players, this is speculation on my part, on football teams in college who are making more money than they will as a just missed pro football player, right? So didn't get drafted, didn't get a free agent contract, go to Canada or in arena football or whatever they're doing to try and continue that dream. But when they were on campus, you know, they were making the equivalency of significantly more money than they can
Well, and then, but like,
2 days later.
Reggie Bush was making money when he was running the ball at USC. You know what I mean? So, like, all of this, there was always money for the
Of
right
course.
player to be delivered by the AAU handler. I mean, we all, this is as obvious as,
But that was the
what the Ravens and the
exception.
Orioles have done to me in regard to press passes. It's just sort of like, it's just sitting there, you know where the truth is, but you're just willing to look the other way in regard to Steve Francis playing 3 minutes at Maryland.
Right.
25 years ago. How these guys wound up at places. And Gary was pretty, at least out in front and saying that he was against all of that, wanted to get out. And Gary Williams, plug Accelerant here if you wish, is a big sponsor. We have an Accelerant lunch, but there's a Comex event that Gary Williams spoke at about a year and a half ago, and I remember going. And it's a breakfast event. Everybody's there to hear or worship Gary and whatnot. And there's going to be guardrails, Gary says. I'm like, were you dreaming? Is that just a talking point? Like, who's the guardrails? Congress, the government, the Supreme Court?
Right.
The Supreme
Right.
Court's one put this in business. Like,
Right.
what's the Attorney General of Maryland? Nobody's coming in. It's free agency, baby. It's
Right.
capitalism, baby.
Right.
There's not going to be any guardrails for this. And I think that that's the hardest part. Is some of the old school people thought, well, this is crazy that Mike Locksley be sitting on. No, it's not. This is the
Right.
new business. Straight cash, homie.
Well,
We're paying him straight cash.
it's out of the shadows and in front of everyone. And then on top of it, to your point, it is we have a tendency to like do stuff and then sort of figure out how to regulate it later, like, oh, I guess we probably should have put some rules in when we did this. There are, and I don't even know if this is really a thing, but there are definitely kids out there who are in high school who are making decisions that are probably putting their eligibility in jeopardy because no one told them what the rules are, and then there are D2 and D3 schools who all they got to do is like put a person in place whose job is to connect the tire shop in town to the football player that everybody goes and watches on Friday night because there's nothing else in that town, right? And the pizza shop that everybody goes to from campus, well, there's another guy with a pizza shop who wishes he was that pizza guy. So let's go get the other pizza guy and see if he'll give them, $1,000 a season or something for the best player on the D3 football team. Like
It's funny
it's
you mentioned pizza
everywhere.
because
It's
30 years
everywhere.
ago, I had Fang Mitchell's whole team in my studio. Speaking of Hennessy, he put that together. It's back in 1998 when the big upset happened with Coppin, and they all
Sure.
came in the studio. And we had a pizza sponsor. I think it was Mama Ulardo's at the time, and they sent the pizza in. Always gave me heartburn. They sent the pizza in, and we ate pizza, and the pictures have us eating pizza. And when it came time to do the newsletter, Fang called me, said, "Hey man, you
Right.
can't be putting the pictures in there, the pizza, man. You gotta get the pizza out." And I'm thinking, I gave your kids pizza. That's a
Right.
violation. That's against the rules.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
giving a kid a slice of pizza in 1998 was against the rules.
Yeah. Right. It's crazy. And that when I sit and watch games, I don't think about it that way until something, reminds me that the
That
whole thing is
everybody in the
different.
arena,
Yeah, the whole
everybody
thing
on
is
TV,
different. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everybody's making
Yep.
money
Yeah.
except the slaves that are dribbling or playing. Like literally, it's March Madness all day long. All of these kids, all these cheerleaders, all of this television, ads, brackets, fantasy brackets, back in
Right,
the day.
right,
And no,
right.
popcorn vendors making money. Everybody's making money. They're selling tickets. They're selling beer. They're upcharging. They're gouging for all of it. Hotel rooms, for all of that. And everybody's making money except Steve Francis when he's dribbling in Knoxville 30 years ago with me and Hennessy spending all his money to get down there, drive around. And it went on forever. It was always wrong. It was always wrong. All this bowl money, bowl. We're going out. We got the rose this and the rose that, and the parade and this sponsor and that float and this and that. And then the kids go out there with helmets on, beat each other's brains out, and they're getting nothing. It's crazy.
Yeah. And
But it's over
now,
with, and now we have to figure out how to manage.
well, right, you turned on the fire hose. So, like, I don't know, every jersey they sell that has a kid's number on it, like, I doubt it's automatic that they're getting money on that. They probably got to go do a deal.
Well, that was the
And
original
who's
Ed
doing that
O'Bannon
deal
deal,
for them?
right? The Ed
Yeah,
O'Bannon
sure.
deal was you were using my likeness. That's name.
But I'm,
By the way, my wife asked me at the bar. We we were out at the bar last Friday night. We were at Cooper's, and we reason we were at Cooper's North is because the game was in Brazil, and I wasn't giving Peacock.
right,
I
right.
wasn't giving them chickens. So we were at the bar, and my wife's like, "NIL, what does that stand for?" And I, she was about to Google it, and I'm like, not interested in learning.
Yeah, right, right,
And she's like, name, image, likeness. And I'm like, yeah, Ed O'Bannon, like
right,
that this is about them making even more money off of you on a video game years later. But I mean, it was an unending pit of being able to make money if if you're Alabama, right?
right.
Literally.
Well, and I just like when the day you turn that spigot on, I mean, I, if I buy a jersey for with the backup center's number on it, because he's my cousin, like, does he get $1? Does he get $5? Or does he get nothing because he doesn't have somebody who went to the school and got them to sign a contract that says if you do this, this is what I get. And the school might say, well, screw you, we're not doing that. We just won't put your number
Well,
in the,
school, you say you
in
get an
the,
education, room and board.
yeah. So I have no idea. Like that's just it's so foreign and you think about it. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
There's
the
so many
unintended
kids and so many
consequences are
players and
of
all that stuff.
anything that is uh, a paradigm shift, right? Like literally,
Right.
the unintended
Correct.
consequences
Correct.
are unpredictable. It's like a
Correct.
hurricane. Bill Cole is here. He's Cole Roofing. I don't know how we got into this because I was going to talk Ravens with you. We were going to talk about my Eric DeCosta letter. We were going to talk about the tech service coming back and all the cool stuff because it's brought to you by Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. Which card would you like? What's on your mind right now? The debate. I mean, we have all sorts of things going on here. The Ravens losing, Lamar not practicing, running the ball 15 times. Everybody on the Orioles is hurt. They can't hit the ball. Pitching's been better, but I mean, this is
Yeah, there's a
these are the
lot.
good times.
30 seconds ish on the Ravens. It felt like Lamar was faster. They kept telling me about all the weight he's lost, and he looked sprier. So that's encouraging till he gets hurt, right? Because I'm sure he put the weight on to protect him. So, uh, some part of me, probably the one that likes to wear the purple glasses, says that that was like a preview of the AFC Championship game, and that was just for now we're going to have to play it in Kansas City instead of Baltimore, and I really think that those two teams are going to just run roughshod through everybody all season, and nobody's really going to put up much of a fight. That's obviously a very optimistic way to interpret that game because I don't think that ever happens in the NFL. But barring injuries, which seems to be always the case in the NFL, like that Kansas City team looks dangerous. Like they need to have some injuries. We need to not have some injuries. I'd like to see the O line kind of figure out what they're doing, but I don't know. I'm excited. I think they'll be productive. I think they'll win a lot of games. You
Nine and a
know,
half to make you laugh, this week. So they better win this, and that's what I said with Dallas.
sure.
Dallas, Buffalo, and Cincinnati coming up, tough games. They need to figure the offensive line out. I don't think there's any. And with
Yeah.
the Orioles, it's not about figuring things. Well, they're going to have to figure things out, but it really is waiting on this cavalry of all these injured players to come back and all at the same time, 3 weeks, and all be productive and all have timing together. I don't know. It's a tall ask for the Orioles right now, I think, and how you feel about them. But they're certainly it's October, it's baseball, anything can happen. I mean, look at Suarez the other night.
Yeah, I think the Orioles is all you can ask for is baseball fans is like get hot at the right time, put it all together, put the pieces together, and then just go do something magical. I remember just watching the Rangers last year. Like that was a buzzsaw. Like we were a really good team and we got destroyed. We just ran into the buzzsaw. So yeah, I think they're they are a team built around statistics. So it's always going to come back to the mean, right? And the question is, are you below the mean going into the playoffs, which means that they're going to accelerate and do better to bring their mean back up to get to the average, or have they been overachieving and things will start to tail off and get to the average at the end?
See, I
Like,
think you're. If I were a scientist, I'd say you got the wrong sample here because the team in May is not the team that's been out there lately. So, there's video evidence of Rutschman taking a pitch on June 27th. He's been hit like a buck 50 since then, injured, and playing. Everybody else is injured. We don't have to tell you about Urias and Matei. You just go down the list of all the guys that were a part of this, even if you thought Urias, Mateo, how important are they? Westberg was very important. And you think, the bullpen, Webb, Colomb, they're just relief pitchers. Oh, well, then there's Grayson Rodriguez. And then all the other starters, Bradish, Means, go through the list of the guys that have had injuries. It's kind of astonishing. I mean, when you think of Eflin and Burns and Suarez being their hope, and none of them were on the team when the Ravens got eliminated by the Chiefs last time they played. They
right,
literally weren't with the program. And the guys that were really good on the team in April, May, and June, they need to be better. Rutschman, Henderson, Santander, okay. Cows are fine, but they need to hit the ball because they're going to have to score 6, 8 runs a game in
right.
October to win. I believe that.
Again, I baseball's such a long season. Those scientists, right? They figure out how this is supposed to go, and then it's just, are you going to catch lightning in a bottle at the end or not? And if you do, then it gets pretty exciting.
So
But if you
Kate
don't,
Povich is starting a game, and Kimbrel can't pitch, and Rutschman can't hit the ball, and Holiday's up, and he shouldn't be. I mean, it's just a lot of things about this that Mike Elias and Brendan High wouldn't have wanted for the team in June.
but
It
sports,
wasn't the
right?
plan.
I understand, but sports stories are always about someone playing way over their head, someone even that was great, but then did something that no one had ever seen before, or is unsustainable, or overachieving in some way. You find some guy in the bullpen who magically pitches like, 14 innings to finish out the season over the course of 3 or 4 weeks without giving up a hit. You like, so you just find that stuff, and that's when the magic happens, I think.
All right, Bill Cole's here, Cole Roofing, Gordy Energy. One of the reasons you sponsor, we're going to do the text service, talk about that next week because people will have text out by then. The election. That's all I'm going to say to you because you're kind of fiercely independent. So when I talk to you, like, I really don't know who you vote for. I'm skeptical one way or another. I'm like, well, he wouldn't really vote for Trump because he's too smart for that. And I'm like, well, but his politics aren't really where, on the Democrat. So, but you get two teams. You don't get to vote for Ross Perot. You know what I mean? Or RFK Jr. lunatic. Debate aside, I saw a really interesting observation. This has nothing to do with Trump's dementia or his misogyny or his racist way. None of that. This is just, it was Kenny Mayne that tweeted this. And I thought in the middle of the night, it's one of the first things I saw in the middle of the night. I don't know. Maybe it's because Pearl Jam's in town, Kenny Mayne and I reconnect because I could get him on the show. He said, I should pull it up, but I think I can get it one to one. He had 3 points about Republic. I can understand if you were in on the con and you've been a part of the con the whole time that you're voting for Trump. I can understand if you're a racist and that you think like a racist, and we all know people like that. We pretend we don't, but we do. That you're going to vote for Trump because he appeals to that. And I can see if you're a rich Republican or think you're a rich Republican, which is really funny, that you're getting a tax break, that you're going to get a break. So if you're in any of that group and you identify and you say, I'm going to vote for Trump, but who are the undecided people now? His point was, who's undecided? Like, if you're on the Trump thing and whatever that thing appeals to, you're in. You know who you're voting for, no matter what stupid ish he said about your eating your dogs and cat. It doesn't matter what he does. We've learned that sanity doesn't matter when it comes in. But the part of it is, if you're undecided, what have you been watching the last 8 years? Like, that's the part that's amazing to me. Is what this exercise of a debate, who they're really trying to influence. Where is the middle? Where's the undecided? Because I that blows me away if you're sitting here September 11th after seeing all you've seen and you don't know who you're voting for yet.
So, yeah, to clarify the point you're making, which I think everything you said I agree with, 95% of the population of our country either hate him, so are going to vote for her, hate her, so they're going to vote for him, love her, so they're going to vote for her, or love him, so they're going to vote for him. That's 95% of the people in this country, I think. That
And
last
keeping in
five,
mind that only 26% of us will vote, or whatever that number, a crazy small number, maybe 18%. I
right?
don't know, but
Fair
it's a
enough.
crazy
No,
number.
no, no.
Yes.
Good, great point. 95% of the 26%. Correct. You are correct. Because 75% of us don't even know what's going on, which is maybe even the more staggering discussion to have. So,
Oof.
uh, one of the things that is stuck in the back of my head that I believe puts me in that 5% camp is I find it, for all of the concerns, disgust, anger about January 6th and, the inability of our country to like do this properly as the leader of democracy on the globe, right? To completely circumvent the democratic process, tell Joe to quit, handpick the replacement, that's like mega un-American. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how we do this. Like, in emergencies, somebody dies, whatever. Sure, we have process that we've all agreed to and we've, lived through, and it works. But for a group of people to take the electoral process away from Americans who would have voted in a primary for a candidate and just handpick a replacement, I don't even get to the point where I'm trying to decide between the two of them. I'm trying to figure out how that goes down and that's okay. Because that seems really foreign to me. And it just doesn't seem like, and I can even segregate my brain and say, well, forget that they did it because they think she had a better chance to win, or, you know what I mean? Like, take all the malicious reasons why they might do it, take that out. Just the fact that they completely circumvented the process, that's what baffles me. You know what I mean? Like, how do we allow that to happen? And that's okay. And everyone seems to have moved past that point. So I'm trying to figure out why I'm still hung up on that point. Because everyone else, there was a debate last night because they're trying to decide, right? Everybody needs to decide who
I
they're
think you're
picking.
making a very valid point, by the way, as a Democrat, that I would have liked to have been into a caucus. But there's a point for me as a human and as a citizen in witnessing what I've witnessed. All that I care about is that he doesn't win. So it doesn't matter to
But you
me
can't,
because
but that's not our country. That's not democracy. We are always in
he's
this
not about
country.
democracy. So that's what I'm voting
I
against. I'm
I
voting against
understand
the guy
that.
who's kissing Putin's ass and a guy that lies more than Chad Steele's lied to me. So like in a
You
general sense, the amount he's not qualified. He's not smart. He's not decent. He has no integrity. I can go on and on and on and on. So whatever she is and whatever they are, put Tim Walls into it, it becomes more appealing. So that therefore, but I would agree with you that she'll earn the presidency when she beats him in 8 weeks. And you'll say, well, she's the president now, but she didn't have the She didn't play the regular season, is what you're saying, right?
Right, right,
This is putting
right.
Alabama
Sure.
into that. That's
Yeah,
literally what. That's pretty good,
yeah. That is
and
pretty
I'm not
good.
wrong in saying that. And I'm going to vote for
Right.
her 100 times over, and I'm going to
But
hope
but
that everybody in the
remember,
audience votes for her because I've seen his act. I saw what happened on
I
the.
know,
I saw
but
what
hold
happened on the steps
on.
of the Capitol. There should be nobody that should vote for that guy.
Time out.
Like literally,
We're
he's a
not,
scumbag.
but we're not talking about you. That isn't what you asked me. You've been very outspoken. We know where you sit. You're part of the 95%. We got it, right? You're asking me, that last group of people who are going to swing this thing one way or another, what are the things that they are still not sure about after all of the stuff they've seen? And you got you
Well, she has been
you
the vice president and has been a heartbeat away. And if all the Republicans had their way and they declared Joe brain dead, she'd be the president anyway. You know what I mean?
I
So
don't disagree with that.
there is a point where like she's sort of next in line as far as the party is concerned. And they all got together out in Chicago. And one thing they've done that the Republicans had a harder time doing and Trump did on his own was just uniting his own thing. Whatever that
Right.
thing is that allows you to win any election, uniting that part of it. The Democrats have at least had, dare I say, their shit together to some degree because it feels like she's going to win. So, from that perspective, if it's just about my team winning, Lord knows we watch that in sports all the time, doing anything. We just sat here and did a half an hour on giving money to 17-year-old kids to come play at State U. Whatever wins, that's America. And that was the deal with Trump. He didn't care if it was legitimate or not. Get on the phone to Georgia. I need to win because the power is the whole gig. I've learned that in sports too. The power is the gig. And I'm not saying it's right or it's good for America one way or another, but she wasn't. You could sell it to me that she's next
I
in line and she would have won anyway based on what we're seeing anyway, and based on the fact there's no other Democrat standing up saying I should have had a chance in the primary and I would have been better or more equipped to do this. It's a party. They put money together. It's not. It's a two-party system that unto itself is effed up. You
I
don't have a
I
two-party system when you're hiring a CEO. Anybody does. You have an open system for all the candidates. I would agree with you. That's what makes America great.
I agree that at no point in the process, no matter which team you root for, if you don't believe that they will do anything to win, you are fooling yourself, right? Yes, they both will do anything. It's the whole conversation around the legitimacy of elections. Like, I snicker at that entire conversation because if you don't think that they've all been messing with it, both sides, for as long as you can remember, then you haven't read any of this country's history.
Yeah, I learned a lot in
Like,
in my dalliance with Maring a couple of years ago about how everything you told me as my consigliere about the money flow into the politics and how Kathy Pugh happened. It's wretched. It's wretched.
yes, and so I don't
Telling me
listen
as a
to.
political candidate I had to go around and suck everybody off for 10,000 bucks to give all the money to BAL and Jay-Z to run ads for me. I mean, come on, man. Come
and
on.
that's and
I
that's
own
the
an
part.
FCC lesson. That's the thing. I get more give Kamala money and give Trump money and I'm like, "Where's the money going?" To
Right.
Fox News to see to the Sinclair family or to the Sun for Sinclair's family or to Jay-Z for Hearst or like it's just going to crease other media companies. It's gross. I mean, our political. I told you I was in Canada a year and a half ago seeing Pearl Jam, and the Canadian system is they put these banners up in the middle of Ottawa everywhere, and that's the advertising. The advertising is we put stuff out on the streets, and that's how we vote for people in Canada. And I thought we kind of screwed it all up around here. No wonder we're a mess.
Yeah, no, I mean that, and that's the part of the conversation that everybody knows about and is somewhat transparent. We've tried to build transparency around it. We know that if that's how messy that part is, imagine all the stuff that we don't know about and that we can't see, and the whole, pay for play and quid pro quo and all that wonderful crap. Um, I think that the balance of that 5% of people are in a camp that are literally just trying to decide who's going to make their life better for the next 5 years.
I figure if you're at that point, you're really having a really hard time disseminating truth. You're one of the people that the Chinese or the Russians can screw with on social media. If you're at this point where you don't know what he is and what the other side's at least trying to do and has been trying to do the last 4 years, in regard to international relations, which if you're in that 5%, I can't. I mean, I saw a thing the other day where, they brought the old world map out and they asked people to point to China and they point to, Africa. And like anybody understanding our place and sort of the sanctity of peace on our turf, especially as we sit here on the morning of 9/11 and discuss this, right?
Right.
That there
Yeah,
there is
but
a point where we watched that guy for 4 years, point at hurricanes that didn't exist, try to sell off Greenland. I mean, like, just
I
the
get it.
lucidity of what was said on Tuesday night should make anybody that's in that 5% look at this and say, that guy's nuts, even if you haven't tuned in the last 4 years and haven't seen him
I
get shot or whatever happened in Pennsylvania or,
but those are the things that get people out of the 5%. And we're talking there's still this 5%. And my issue with those 5% is how they choose to interpret, like, there are major wars going on now, and there weren't then. And like, I'm not interested, nor do I really believe that Trump had anything to do with preventing that stuff from happening, or the that he claims, like, with me, none of that goes on, right? Like, I'm not buying into that. But my problem is for the 5% of undecided people, how do you determine what part of that is real? Because the real part, what is reality that we do know, is that there is a major conflict in the Middle East and there's a major conflict in Russia, Ukraine. And that didn't happen when Trump was in office. So I can't dispute that simple way of looking at it.
also no longer in Afghanistan. I want to point that out too. Our own war that we got out of. So.
Yeah, but that's another one that we don't even know what the real way to perceive that is. Yes, agreed, 100%, we're out.
Oh, well,
The
this
the
is this
the
is spin on
disaster of
both
how we
sides.
pulled out,
Whose
you know what I
fault it
mean?
is,
Yeah, right.
like,
Sure.
yeah, 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 yeah. Bill Cole's here. He's Cole Roofing. We're not going to sort it all out here, but we're going to have an election in 8 weeks. We're
I'll
going to have a
tell you the
football game on Sunday. Go ahead.
most important thing that was said was, in between trying to trash her energy policy or whether she's going to ban fracking or blah, blah, whatever, whatever, he said, solar. I love solar. That's the clip. Like, I don't care. Like, my job, and I implore people to think about it this way, one of them's going to win. I don't know which one. My only job as a CEO is to figure out how my business continues to survive with whoever wins, so that the 150 families that we help feed their kids every day have their jobs, because I want to have 200 families, right? So no matter which one of them knuckleheads wins, I got to figure out how to do business in that environment. That's my job.
Bill Cole, spoken like a true independent and fiercely independent, man. I got to get these segments should be sponsored by Moosehead. It's fiercely independent, good Canadian company, sponsored some American conversation. He's Bill Cole. You can find him at Cole Roofing. He's the sponsor of our WNST tech service. If you're on it, you'll know when you get it. So will our
Right.
friends at 105.7. He's Bill. I'm Nestor. We're WNST AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. Non-denominational we are here. We are fiercely independent. We really are. I released my declaration of independence last week. So go read that out at Baltimore Positive. Stay with us.